What is going on, everybody? Welcome to a brand new video. Today I'm going to be doing a brand new kind of video. I don't know if this is going to be a series or not. I'm just trying it out. I'm going to be reacting to all of the negative reviews on the brand new movie Mortal Kombat. Now, I haven't seen the movie yet. I pretty much just filmed this a day early on. I just want to see how the reviews will look like. I'm probably going to get spoiled by some of the things that are going to be in the movie, but honestly, I don't care. I just want to see if this kind of video format would work because I feel like that this is an interesting idea for a video. When I do see the movie again, I'm going to go ahead and look at other reviews because I don't trust every single review that does come out because they claim to say that they did see the movie when really they haven't. So this is me reacting to some of the reviews that have already been out, and what I'm going to be mostly looking at are just the ones on Rotten Tomatoes. I'll probably look on Letterboxd as well because that website also seems to be deemed worthy of a better review site than Rotten Tomatoes. So anyway, let's just go ahead and get started. This is the rating on Mortal Kombat from Rotten Tomatoes right now. It's at 65%. It may change, it may go up, it may go down, but I'm going with what I plan to do in the first place. I'm going to go ahead and review all the ones that are claimed to be negative. I'm not going to read like everything that is in descriptive detail about how these people feel about the movie. I mean, sometimes I'll just look at the excerpts and then I'll automatically get it. So there's your full description about what this video would kind of be like. Some of them I will go into specific details. Some of them I'm just going to look at an excerpt. Kind of trite and boring. Maybe something I'd appreciate more as a teenager, but not so much as a grown adult. Honestly, I think like even as an adult, you can enjoy something that is schlocky and action like fun. My family loves the Taken movies and they're full of schlocky fun. Since like movies are kind of made for like escapism and you want to be entertained, there isn't necessarily anything wrong with watching a movie if what this person is describing is supposed to be for like an action sequence. Mortal Kombat was a ludicrous over-the-top game, and the overwhelming flaw of this movie adaptation is that McQuoid and his crew take it all too seriously. Let's see if there's a little more that I can read into. A lot of these reviews don't necessarily contain like actual criticism. It's mostly just the synopsis of the movie or what is going on behind the scenes of the movie or where it's being adapted from. And then there's just like a little bitty of criticism that's actually going on in here. You can see why I'm not reading their full detailed article. His focus is on capturing the video game's atmosphere and icons with up-to-date computer graphics, and fan of the game will recognize certain catchphrases and battle moves. Fans will also appreciate how McQuoid, in a departure from the sanitized 1995 movie, has transferred the game's hyper-violence and spurting blood intact. The gushers of blood became almost comical in a movie that could use more humor. When the movie sticks to the martial arts action and the cartoonishly gory dispatching of bad guys, it's not so bad. That's kind of with me with Godzilla and King of the Monsters. I thought that movie was taking itself too seriously, and it could have been like, you know, how Godzilla vs. Kong was like. Some people don't necessarily care for that movie because, again, they had problems with some of the characters in here and thought it would have been a little more in descriptive detail about how the world works, but it seemed like that it was having problem on whether or not it wanted to be just pure fun or if it wanted to become a serious movie. But it's also about great writing and great details on character analysis, and sometimes you would want to think deep when you look at these characters and their journey. So I can get what this guy is talking about. It is angling for a sequel, but it may be better suited for a do-over again. Okay, that just feels like they just wanted to say angry stuff. I watched the film with no expectations other than to have some fun, and even like that, I was disappointed. Dang. And it said full review in Spanish, but I can't read Spanish. Here for taking everything so seriously, the only ones who are not going to get bored are the fans of the video game. But if you like the video games and they are for entertainment, don't you think that it can actually be fun? There are two different things that you're saying there. You're saying that, one, they're taking everything so seriously, but then again, you're saying that it's for the fans of the video games. Are the video games actually taking in seriously, or is it just for the violence and blood that's in the video games? I don't know. I haven't necessarily played Mortal Kombat that much. 25 years later, this new version brings little to nothing new. In short, for those who want to have a moment of entertainment, the best thing they can do is turn on their game console, choose a fighter, and spend 2 hours of their practicing fights virtually. Whereas the action is both gory and violent, as it should be, director Simon McQuoid, I hope I'm saying the name right, got so carried away with his instance of taking a grounded approach in his movie. It seems like most of the criticism is the fact that they're taking the movie seriously and not enough entertainment, even though there are some people in here that are saying that there are entertainment factors in this film. if you are a fan of the Mortal Kombat, which apparently go into more of the lore rather than the actual action sequences. And I think that the point that people wanted to see from this movie was just more so action than they want with lore. Anyway, my camera is about to die, and I'm gonna go ahead and wait and film the rest of this tomorrow. That way I would actually see the movie, and then once I see the reviews, maybe it would actually make sense, and maybe some of the reviews that I have seen here, they would make me go like, what the heck are you talking about? So yeah, cut back now to tomorrow! Alright, I'm back. It's finally tomorrow, and I just watched Mortal Kombat. If you want to know my short thoughts on it, I thought the movie was fine. I'm not familiar that much with the Mortal Kombat franchise. I've never seen the past movies, and I haven't necessarily played the video games. But I thought the movie had a ton of good action and gore and violence, and some of the production design is actually pretty neat. I wish we got to discover more about that, or at least I wish that the way that they executed it was more properly handled rather than just, you know, dumbpiling it like a bunch of exposition and just saying we're only here just to create a story and have characters just be in here and not really give them any much development, and just pick and choose which character you think is the coolest, and we'll have some fun. So for entertainment purposes, I enjoyed it, but I felt like the movie could have been a little bit more, because this universe does look interesting to me. But anyway, let's go ahead and get back with some of these negative reviews, and it's actually gone down a little more. It's at 53%, and there's a total of 118 reviews on Rotten Tomatoes. I'm not necessarily going to read every single one of them, but I'll try my best to read a lot. While Mortal Kombat certainly isn't game over for the iconic franchise, a painfully bad plot proves to be a fatality for a movie that features some otherwise brutal and excellent fight scenes. If you're only here for those, add another star. I actually agree with that. The story is definitely the weakest part of the movie, or at least the writing is. I mean, I felt like that it could have been way better, and I do think that if you're only there for those action scenes, just give it another star, give it another upgrade. Mortal Kombat knows its audience. Weak story and gratuitous violence is the same thing. Director Simon McQuoid may keep the action flowing quickly, but without any grounding in strong characters, the stakes never felt meaningful. Yeah, I agree with that. I never felt like the characters were that strong, but that's not necessarily the kind of audience that this movie was aiming at. The same puerile piffle as every other movie incarnation of the game. Professional critic, I see. Fans of the video game will find much to love about Mortal Kombat, including the various fight sequences showing copious amounts of blood and gore. That doesn't sound rotten. It sounds like, you know, fresh. Let me see the full review of this. The fight choreography is all well done, as that scene in the John Wick series, and most of the computer-generated graphics are pretty good. However, there are moments here and there that becomes obvious. Some stunts and graphics are not real. The most unfortunate part of the movie is the story. The video game, at least the original, is centered on the Chosen Ones fighting in the tournament to save the Earthrealm. This version of the film barely touches upon the impending tournament and deals more with trying to create the team's backstory. Of course, this leaves the ending open to a sequel. While I appreciate the backstory writers Greg Russo and Dave Callum and director Simon McQuoid making his feature directorial debut, didn't need to drag it out as long as they did, but if they didn't, they wouldn't have had a long enough movie for a feature film, nor a built-in segue to a sequel. Here's the thing with me, I never felt like that this movie was a drag or a long movie. I mean, it was under 2 hours. It was like hour and 50 minutes, close to 2 hours, but it didn't really feel like it was like 2.5 hours. That's pretty much the general time length that every movie usually likes to go to now. This one of my biggest problems is that they rush through so much. They try to add in so many different characters, tried to give them backstories, they tried to give out exposition to some of these characters, or really have that much emotional weight to these characters, but it seemed like that was pretty much missing if the movie did want to take the film a little bit serious, and it kind of just rushed through all of that. I just cared to see who was the coolest and what kind of action scenes are the most entertaining for me. Compared to the 1995 Mortal Kombat movie, what hasn't changed is the train wreck of stiff acting, embarrassingly bad dialogue, and a stale plot. Everything is very hollow and predictable. I haven't seen the past movies, but some of the acting is not that bad. Some of it, I would say, they aren't that great, but some of the dialogue, I can't agree, it's not that good. And the plot, yeah, I was bored with it, but that's not the point. But I'm pretty sure a lot of people who have seen those movies would definitely say this movie is a lot more entertaining than any of the past movies have been. I haven't seen them, but I think they'll agree with me on that. Sub-Zero and Scorpion are flawless, but the rest is so weak that this version loses the fight against the unfairly maligned first movie. Paper-thin story is so meaningless that it's hardly an excuse for even the movie's meager ambitions. Its greatest moments will inspire viewers to pick up their controllers to mash buttons and grind joysticks once again. This one is from a top critic. In spite of its occasionally engaging displays of gnarly brutality, the film too often feels like an adaptation of a player select screen. Some people are saying that the CGI is bad, like it's pretty much a video game. Yeah, I agree with that. It's CGI, obvious, but what movie isn't now? General audiences may scratch their heads at a sprawling cast of characters all defined more by a costume, catchphrase, or signature move than any crucial narrative reason for them to exist. In the battle between glistening production values and an upgraded R rating versus Paul W.S. Anderson's Jake and Cole classic, who knew that 1995's Mortal Kombat would still reign supreme? Is he acknowledging that the first Mortal Kombat movie is the best one out of any of them, and this one is actually not that good? I need to see this guy's full review in order for me to understand why he's saying that the first one is still the best one. In 1995, Paul W.S. Anderson's Mortal Kombat graced the silver screen as one of the first video game adaptations. It wasn't a good movie per se, but unlike its much maligned contemporary Super Mario Bros. And Double Dragon, it established itself as a camp favorite, hanging on to a pair of rose-colored lenses that persist to this day. Sloppy, choppy, and dumb as a sack of rocks, 1995's Mortal Kombat was base cinema, but its charm lay in its janky imperfections, hammed-up performances, and instants of fun. From Carrie, I'm not pronouncing that name, bellowing, "Your soul is mine," a line reading so iconic that it would be incorporated into later games, to a charming animatronic Guru, the film relished in its ability to not take itself too seriously. Flash forward 25 years and more than a decade in production limbo, the gore-filled franchise is finding rebooted life in Simon McCoy's directorial debut, and it's mostly disappointing. I'm not above turn your brain off entertainment, but Mortal Kombat's very clear problems with its characters, work, and pacing get in the way of its main event action, which itself is so poorly edited at times that it's hard to believe. Utterly confused about what it wants to be, the film is a mishmash of shallow fan service and self-seriousness that makes the quest to defend Earthrealm something it shouldn't be, tedious and incomprehensible. I mean, that's an interesting way of looking at things, but fan service doesn't equal bad. It equals good if it is doing exactly what it wants to do for the fans, or what it wants to do for people who want to see a Mortal Kombat movie. If they're adaptating from something that is pleasing towards the fans, and they're giving the fans something that is pleasing inside the movie, then that means it equals a win-win. And even before, when this guy said that in Paul W.S. Anderson film, like, it's full of cheese, not taking itself seriously, and it's really amping up the violence, why is it that in this movie, when it is doing those exact same things like the violence and the gore, it doesn't work there, but it does work there? I understand the criticism on saying that this movie is taking itself too seriously and it should focus more on the violence and the gore and being fun, but there's still potential in this movie that can make us feel for these characters. I think that the movie did fail on that type of aspect, but there's nothing wrong with a movie that wants to try and do that. In this new Mortal Kombat, the action has energy and is well done, but is that enough for a movie? Maybe for some, but I struggled. Hollywood should read the room and either start coming up with more inspired material or stop adapting video games for the sake of making a quick buck. You want something that's original, not necessarily adaptations or remakes or comic books and all that stuff. I get it, you will want something original or new, so watch them. They're original movies that exist. One might reasonably surmise longtime fans of Mortal Kombat would have a better time playing the latest version of the game than watching this origin story. That's kind of like with every video game, though. You can't expect a video game movie to be better than the video game, because the video game experience is always different than watching a movie. So that's pretty self-explanatory. Playing Mortal Kombat is brutal and bloody, but it's also a lot of fun. The movie is missing out on much of the latter. Why so much screen time was wasted talking about a tournament at all is left unclear. I was entertained by Mortal Kombat more often than I wasn't, but I can't guarantee that I had the kind of good time that the filmmakers intended to create. I'm curious what that means, actually. First-time director Simon McCoy doesn't demonstrate all that much finesse in the financy and the fighting, I don't know how to say that word, in the fighting scenes, often putting his camera too close to the action or filming that action from awkward angles or relying on CG characters appear and reappear on encased people's arms and eyes or fly around on wings, so much that it saps the combat of any organic energy. Where he does excel is in the deaths, which are often so gruesome that they become a kind of grand eugenol dark comedy. Whether it's a bad guy's head being crushed like a watermelon between two heroic fists, or the squishy results of Kong Lao turning his weaponized hat into a buzzsaw that kills in Mortal Kombat, are so extravagantly bananas as to be hilarious. But is this meant to be a comedy? Apart from occasional one-liner, Cole observes that titular clash is misspelled and Kano is a raging ball of ID. The film seems to want to take this nonsense deadly seriously, even on a pure action movie level. The violence is only interesting when it's so over the top that it reaches the realm of satire. You're saying that when this movie wants to be straightforward, monotone, serious-like, it gets sidetracked, or it doesn't necessarily work when the movie is acting really cheesy and corny like an Evil Dead film. But the thing is that you can be both. You can combine something that is silly and over the top while also trying to be serious at the exact same time, while also really caring for the characters and enjoying the story at the exact same time. We can actually do that now. You just gotta find the correct kind of balance, and I've seen movies that haven't done that execution very well, and this movie didn't necessarily execute it that great because it didn't necessarily make me care for the characters that much. It just wanted to throw them in there and then say, let's have some fun with the violence. So my argument is that you can be able to create a good movie like that, even though this movie didn't necessarily execute it the way I think it could have. And we got The Last Row. Sorry I'm not necessarily reading every single one of these reviews. I mean, I want to say that I've read every single one of them, but some of them are saying the exact same thing, and like 3 different types of opinions are kind of the same things that these critics are saying. This third attempt to bring the notorious Midway video game to the big screen is Aussie Rules R-rated. The movie comes to life in brief and violent spurts, but otherwise settles for being a drab affair that does little with the rich lore and mythology of the franchise. I do agree with that. I want to see more of the mythology and the lore. Though a problem with this reboot, and perhaps this will stem from expectations, is that one doesn't come away really wowed by the world or understanding how it spawned such a vast multimedia empire of games, movies, and comics. Just today I saw an interview where Joe Taslim indicated he was signed up for 4 sequels to this film. I can't think of anything sadder. The movie was not that bad. It was filled with some entertainment. You could be entertained by it, and if they constantly keep that up, it could be like on a regular basis of just giving us some gory action and violence. I mean, fine. The only problem is if the action scenes are just bad. A lot of Kombat's flaws could be forgiven if the fights were any good, but the few expectations, they're just not. Unless you don't want it to be violent and gory, otherwise, why would you want to watch a Mortal Kombat movie? And a good bit of these reviews I pretty much already reviewed yesterday, so I'm gonna call it quits and say that this is it. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I'm sorry that I didn't read everything from this Rotten Tomatoes website, but it seems like that a good bit of them are technically the same thing that they're talking about over and over again, so it feels like that I'm just repeating myself. So in my self-defense, I would like to say that I technically did read every single negative review that is on this website, so I did my job. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you want to see more videos like this, let me know down in the comment section below. And if you do want to see this series continue, what would you like for me to review next? I actually would like to do one of Zack Snyder's Justice League. So that is it for today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll be sure to see you in the next video.